It's in my room.
Hi everyone! Merry Christmas! Happy New Year! Backyard Farmer Pat here. Today we are in the kitchen and we are making one of Jamaica's most iconic Christmas drinks, sorrel. Everybody who grew up in Jamaica knows that sorrel is the most famous Jamaican drink. And I know a lot of you up here, you grow your sorrel or roselle plants, your hibiscus sorrel or roselle plants. And I know you make your roselle teas, but I'm sure you're gonna love this recipe for Jamaican, authentic Jamaican sorrel recipe. So there are lots of recipes online, but in today's video, I'm gonna give you some tricks and tips that your sorrel will be the absolute best sorrel that you've ever had, and you're gonna just wow your friends this Christmas. Not only that, I'm going to show you 4 different ways that I drink my sorrel that you can drink not just Christmas time, but you can drink throughout the year. So let's get started. Sorrel. All right, so let me show you what we're going to be using with the sorrel. So I've already gone through a few steps of the sorrel, but I'm going to tell you step by step what I've already done. Then we're going to finish up the sorrel together. Then we're going to taste it. So to make the real authentic Jamaican sorrel, you need, of course, you need your sorrel. And as I said, many people grow their own sorrel, but this year, for some reason, my sorrel or my hibiscus seeds didn't germinate. So I went and bought the sorrel in the Jamaican store. So for this recipe, I use 2 bags. You can use the 4.8, I actually use a 4.8 size bag and a 7-ounce bag. But with sorrel and the recipe I'm using, it's you don't have to follow an exact recipe for this to taste good. So I'm using 2 bags of sorrel, and for the sorrel I already made, it's about these 2 size bags. You also need some allspice or pimento seeds. You need some whole cloves. And for some people, they use one or the other, but I'm using both. Some people also use cinnamon sticks, or they use orange peels. I'm not using cinnamon sticks or orange peels this time. I'm only using the cloves and the allspice, which is how I grew up drinking it. You need some white sugar, and I'm going to explain in a minute why I'm using white sugar instead of brown sugar. You need a little bit, and this is optional, some overproof white rum. So this is Jamaican J. Ray and Nephew overproof rum. You need a little bit of that just to preserve the sorrel and, to give it that flavor. And I'm also going to add Stone's ginger wine. Some people online use Win Carnes or other Jamaican wines. I like to use Stone's ginger wine in my sorrel. So let me tell you what I've done so far. And as I said, I'm going to give you tips along the way. All right. So the very first tip before we even start, tip number 1, use an enamel pot, an enamel or glass pot. And the reason is when you boil the sorrel and the ginger and then let it sit, because with sorrel, to really make good sorrel, you make it sit for like at least a day or 2 before you drink it. The metal in the normal metal pots will react with the sorrel and make the sorrel like a dark color or a brownish color. And if you want to keep that beautiful, rich, like burgundy color, you use an enamel pot. My sorrel was actually made like 4 or 5 days ago. That's when I first made it. And I've been drinking from it, and it's still in the enamel pot. But I didn't want to finish it up until I actually, told you that step. So step number 1 is you're gonna take your 2 packs of sorrel. You're gonna first wash it. And what I do is I empty my 2 packs of sorrel, and I'm not gonna do that part today because I've already made some sorrel. But you take the 2 packs of sorrel, you empty it into like a colander, and you just wash it lightly. You don't have to wash it very long. You're gonna see the burgundy color washing off, but don't worry about it. There's a lot of color still in it. You're just gonna wash it just to get rid of any little, dust. Sorrel tends to have a lot of dust in it. So you're just gonna rinse it off for maybe like 30 seconds to a minute, right? Then once you do that, you're gonna take your ginger. And what I do with my ginger, I just wash it well. I don't try and peel my ginger. I just wash it well. Any marks, any little things on it, you scrape it off. But like this ginger is perfect as it is. It's organic ginger. I washed it. Then I added some water into my Ninja, and you can use your Ninja, you can use the NutriBullet, you can use our food processor, but you just want to blend this out. So you add your ginger, your sorrel to the pot, and you boil it, right? So for this pot, I probably had it 3/4 way in the pot. I probably had it 3/4 way. I added several whole cloves as well as pimento seeds, and I made it boil. I boiled my sorrel for like 45 minutes. And once it's boiled, I turn the stove off and I just cover it up and I actually let it sit for like 2 days. You can let it sit overnight, that's fine. But for me, I don't mind if it even starts to ferment. I don't mind that. But at least let it sit overnight. For me, this time I used it, I had it sitting for 2 days. So after I did that, what I did was I got a big strainer and I got some cheesecloth and I strained my sorrel off. So let me just show you what that would look like. So you're gonna get your strainer. Sorrel has a lot of little dust and everything in it, and you want to get rid of that. You don't want to be drinking your sorrel and have that little dust. So I find by using not just a strainer but a cheesecloth in the strainer and then pouring the sorrel into this, it makes a huge difference. So what I did was I had like 2 jugs this size or a little bit bigger. I strained off all my sorrel, and then when I poured it into the cheesecloth, I actually wrung out the cheesecloth to make sure that I captured all the debris, but all the sorrel liquid came out. So after that step, what I did was I poured all the jugs of sorrel that I just strained off, all the different jugs, I poured it back in here, and that brings me to step number 3. So tip number 1, use an enamel pot. Tip number 2, blend your ginger. Don't just slice it up like some people slice it up or crush it. Blend the ginger, it makes a huge difference. And then tip number 3 is use a cheesecloth to capture that extra debris. Tip number 4, which I think is super important, after you've strained everything off, and this is the step we're at now, I poured all the sorrel back into the pot and I turned the fire on low just to get it warm. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do all my sweetening and adding my wine and adding different things to the pot. That way all your bottles of sorrel are gonna taste the same. You don't want some to taste good, some to taste weak, some to taste, like gingery, some not gingery. So by pouring all the sorrel back into the original pot that you boiled it in, every bottle is gonna taste the same. So I've already sweetened my sorrel. One thing about sorrel takes a lot of sugar. So I don't measure like half a cup. I just pour and stir it up and taste it. And that's a good thing. Because the pot is warm, when you pour it and stir it, it's going to cause the sugar to dissolve quickly. You don't want to sweeten the sorrel when the pot is cold, because then when you get to the very bottom, you're going to have a lot of sugar crystals and it's going to be super sweet, and that's going to mess it up. So by sweetening the sorrel when it's warm, that's when your sorrel will be good. So literally with sorrel, you just pour. And as I said, I've sweetened it before, but it still was slightly tart. But I didn't mind, because one of the ways I like to drink my sorrel is as a tea. So what I've been doing in the mornings for the past 3 or 4 days is I've been pouring like half cup sorrel with some water and just having that as my morning tea. So the stove is on low right now. So I'm going to go ahead and stir my sorrel. Another tip, I don't know what tip this is, probably tip number 5. Another pro tip, I call this a pro tip, is you can always start with strong sorrel and make it weaker by adding water. But if the sorrel is weak, you can't make it stronger. So right now my sorrel is very, very rich, very, very thick. You can drink it like this, but it's a bit almost too rich and too thick. You want to water it down slightly. So here I'm stirring my sugar in, making sure the sugar is fully dissolved. And then I'm going to taste to see what it tastes like. Remember guys, I have added a significant amount of sugar already. So this is like my second sweetening, but I wanted to take you guys along to this final stage. All right. Look at that color. You can see that burgundy color. So I'm going to taste it right now. Can take a little bit more sugar. Well, let me start first to make sure that the sugar fully dissolved. As I stir, I can literally feel the little sugar crystals at the bottom. And I felt it before, and now it feels like it's really fully dissolved. I'm gonna add a little bit more sugar. Sorrel, the traditional way, it should be a little bit sweet, but not overly sweet. So you don't want it overly sweet, but you wanna taste the sweetness. I do taste the sweetness, but I think it could take a little bit more sugar. And of course, guys, you're gonna sweeten to taste. Just know that the traditional sorrel, it should have a sweetness to it. All right, so now I'm gonna taste this again. Make sure I dissolve all the crystals. Wait, let me finish this first. Oh, that's nice. Oh my gosh, that's good. It's very good. All right, let me taste with a little bit more sweetness. Guys, perfection. We've gotten to that perfection. Still has the little slight tartness of the sorrel, but and the sweetness, and then you can taste that on the note of the ginger and the cloves and the allspice. You can taste it all. However, when I make my sorrel, I did make it very strong. So what I'm gonna do now is add a little water. Add a little water to get it to the right consistency. Just gonna add a little bit at a time, because remember I said you can have it strong, and you can make it a little bit weaker or make it perfect if it's too strong. But if it's too weak, it's just gonna be blah. It's just gonna be boring. So add a little bit of liquid, little bit of water. And then let me taste now. See if it's the right texture, the right flavor. Getting there. Let me just add a little bit more water. A little bit more water. All right, that's gonna be perfect now. That's gonna get it. So it was, because I've been drinking like a cup like every day, it was going down. I started off here. After I boiled it, it was probably a little bit over half. Then after boiling it and letting it sit and drink, it was down. But now I've added like half a jug of water. And I know it's gonna be perfect now, but let's just taste it. Let's give it one more taste. As I said, this is not an exact science. Definitely, the steps that I've told you are the steps to take, but you wanna make it to your taste. So if you like it sweet, you can add more sugar. Some people like it very sweet, but I like it a little sweet and tart. Guys, I just reached perfection. All right, so I talked to you about the 4 ways that I have sorrel. So what I've been doing in the mornings, as I said, I've been having a cup of sorrel. Now at this point, there's no alcohol in there. It's just the cloves and the ginger and the allspice and the sorrel. So it's all just that natural stuff. So guys, do you know that sorrel can actually help with your high blood pressure? It lowers your cholesterol. There's so many benefits to sorrel. It can be drank daily without any negative side effects. So guys, you can have your sorrel every morning as a morning drink. So that takes us to the second way that I love to drink my sorrel. So it's Saturday afternoon, it's hot. You don't always want to drink sorrel that has like wine or rum in it. So the second way I love to drink my sorrel is just on the rocks without any alcohol. So what I did was I poured out this jug before I actually add the wines and the rums and everything. And from this jug now, I can have my sorrel tea in the morning, and I can also pour my sorrel onto a nice glass of ice. Guys, look at this color. Oh my goodness, guys. Look at this burgundy color. This is what sorrel should look like. It should look like a delicious glass of burgundy wine or something. Right? So this is what sorrel looks like. So by keeping a jug like this in the fridge, kids come over and they want to have sorrel. They don't have to wait till they're 21 to have sorrel. They can have sorrel because there's no alcohol in it. Or if somebody just doesn't want to have any alcohol, they can have this sorrel. So this is the second way I love to drink my sorrel.
So the traditional way, and that is also the traditional way. Growing up, we would always have our sorrel with a little bit of white rum in there.
And here again, I'm using the Ray and Nephew Jamaican. This is Jamaican white rum, white overproof rum, right? And this is extremely strong.
When you make it, when you're adding your rum to your sorrel, you don't want it to be, first of all, you make sure the stove is off. The stove is now off. The sorrel pot is basically cool because you don't want the alcohol
To burn off
right away. So it's basically cool. You want to make sure that you add just a little bit. You don't want to taste white rum, right? You
want the white rum flavor to
enhance the sorrel, but not to overpower it. So I'm not measuring. I'm probably going to use like a quarter cup of white rum here, right? So for this big pot, a quarter cup is pretty small. And then I like to use Stone's ginger wine. Again, you can use Wincarnes. There are other Jamaican wines that people like to use. I like to use Stone ginger wine. I happen to like ginger. And while you don't want the ginger overpowering the sorrel because the sorrel is really the star, I think ginger pairs extremely nicely with sorrel. So I'm adding a little Stone ginger wine. That might have been maybe a cup and a half. I'm going to taste it now and then decide if I'm going to add
more ginger wine
or more rum. Probably won't need to add more rum because the flavor of the sorrel is already so good. But I'm gonna try this now.
So you know what? I didn't even taste this
one. I'm gonna get a second glass.
You know what? Let me do this. I'm gonna go straight to this one. All right.
Since I already know what it tasted like with the sugar, but let me
see what it tastes
like now
with the rum and the ginger beer. Ginger wine. Ginger wine, not ginger beer. If you don't have access to Stone's ginger wine, you can use any ginger wine.
I've actually also used ginger tea. You know, there's a Caribbean Delights
crystallized ginger
that I've added to it. So anything to give
it that ginger flavor. So now this is the one with the wine and a little white rum. Let's see what this tastes like.
So good.
I think I need a little bit more wine because the wine is so small that you really don't taste it. Gonna add the rest of the wine. All right, so I just added probably not a quarter cup of the Stone's ginger wine, and I'm gonna add maybe a quarter cup of the white rum, and then let's taste it now. Oops, I still have some here. I'm gonna have to drink this and then drink some more. Perfection already. Guys, this is so good. All right, I just added that little touch more of the wine, and probably definitely less than a quarter cup of the white rum. And then we're gonna try it now. As I said, guys, with sorrel, it's not an exact science. You can tweak it to meet your taste. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Oh, there's just one thing to make it off the chain, and it is my rum cake. My rum cake. Just finished baking my rum cakes. This is another Jamaican tradition. This is the Jamaican rum cake. With rum cakes, as the word said, it's rum. You use rum, you use wine, you soak your fruits, your prunes, your raisins, your currants. Mine have actually been soaking for over a year. Well, this one has been soaking probably a good 3 years. I have a large jar that I keep my fruits in, and I just make my cakes every year. And no, guys, I'm not selling the cakes this year. I know in the past I've sold them. So, guys, this is what the Jamaican rum cakes look like. You soak your fruits in white rum and wine for a year, and then you bake it. And guys, look at this. Guys, There's nothing that says Jamaican Christmas like a piece of Christmas cake, otherwise known as black cake or rum cake. Mmm. And wash it down with some delicious sorrel. Guys, you guys can do this too. Oh, I didn't get to number 4. So you saw the 3 ways I make my sorrel. I drink my sorrel. On a cold day, you can have it a nice hot tea, sorrel tea, or on a hot day, you have a nice cold glass of sorrel, or you can have sorrel with the alcohol or wine in it as an evening cocktail. But the 4th way I discovered to make my sorrel, I actually found this out by mistake. So I think it was like 2 years ago, was Christmas time. I made all my sorrels. I usually store them in the fridge. And I found a bottle of sorrel that was at the back of the fridge from, I don't know if it was a year before or 2 years before. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, is this bad? Did this go bad? Guys, I can tell you, the sorrel went another level. It became sorrel wine. It tasted like the finest, most expensive wine. And that's by making it age for a year. So the sorrel, as I said, I made it just like I made it today, but I left it in the back of the fridge and I drank it the following year. That was a 4th way. I didn't share that sorrel that year. That was me and my husband's special bottle of sorrel that we had a little bit every night, and it was just delicious. It just was just so refined. It was just such a different level. So, you know, if you guys make a big pot of sorrel like I'm making this year, you guys can do that. All right, so now that we've made our sorrel, we put some in the fridge to use for teas and for drinks. What else do you do with your sorrel? So sorrel stores very well, or stores best, in glass. So you can see this is a glass jar. You can take empty wine bottles. If you have any empty rum bottles, you can go ahead and use a funnel to pour them into the rum bottles. And then once you pour it in, you're gonna add a couple allspice and cloves to the top. So let's do that. So I'm gonna pour this. It's kind of heavy. Pour this into the funnel. Yes, definitely store it in glass. You don't want it to react and change in plastic or in metal. So that's one bottle. If you have empty wine bottles, any kind of empty glass bottles will do. All right, so I just poured my sorrel into my 3 bottles, and there's some more sorrel, but I'm gonna have to collect some more bottles. And you know, you guys, you can call around to friends. If you don't have the bottles, call around to friends. You know, you can get bottles. So I'm just dropping a couple of cloves. This one is extra big, so I'm gonna put 3 allspice in this. 2 here, and 2 in this one. And that's just gonna continue, you know, adding to the flavor. And this is, again, an optional step. The cloves, I'm gonna just add 2 to this one, 2 here, and 2 to this final bottle. And just like that, guys, we are done. Seal it. You can put it in the fridge, or you can leave it on the counter for a little bit, especially this one that has the rum in it. The rum will preserve it, and it will just continue to age if you leave it out for a bit. But to be on the safe side, you can go ahead and put it in the fridge. I personally like to leave it on the counter for at least another week. So by the time Christmas comes around, the little more fermentation will come, and that flavor will develop even more. So I can just wow my friends and my family. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoy this. If you guys made sorrel and you followed this recipe, please drop a comment below and let me know how you like it. I'm pretty sure you're gonna love it just like I did. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, please go ahead and share with your friends, and you know, hit like and drop a comment below. Till next time, bye now.